we lose another one way too early. Reported by the Star Tribune, a Minneapolis-based newspaper, Tom Zenk passed away at 59 years old last week. I guess they're saying on December 9th, 2017, he was in the North Memorial Medical Center and passed away. It didn't come out into the news until December 17th, 2017, which I guess doesn't surprise me. I mean, usually we hear about it right away, but Tom Zenk has kind of left the wrestling world. He's not in the wrestling news anymore. He stayed away from it for a long time. After his career ended, he kind of just did his own thing. I wasn't even aware that he was still around the Minneapolis area, which it sounds like he quite possibly could have been. And yeah, a very interesting career. And I mean, he started with the Can-Am connection. I guess Rick Martel was coming back to the WWF at the time, and this would have been late 1986, and he said he knew this other guy out in the Quebec area that I think Martel was even mentoring him a little bit, and wanted to see if he could thought WWF at the time could use him. They came. I mean, he used his real name too, Tom Zenk, in the WWF. Vince didn't own the name, so came up as a Can-Am connection in late 1986. Had some. I mean, they were good. They were just had everything. They were very fast, quick, did great like drop kicks and stuff like that. Always had these big smiles. Like they were this definitely a great face tag team. Got to wrestle in WrestleMania 3. At that time, the biggest WrestleMania of all, and the biggest WrestleMania of all until Dallas passed it. They got the opening bout against Bob Orton and Don Morocco, and a great opening bout. And this was Hogan Andre's WrestleMania, and you have Macho and Steamboat later, but these guys had a great opening bout, and that's with Morocco having a kind of a subpar bout in WrestleMania 2 against Orndorff and not even being a part of WrestleMania 1. That was good to see. Orton, his only WrestleMania where he actually wrestled, he was in the corner of Piper and in the corner of the heels in the main event of WrestleMania 1. So both of those two, but the Can-Am connection over that Martel would obviously go on. This would be his first WrestleMania. He'd go on later WrestleManias as both part of Strikeforce and then the Model, and had a pretty good WWF career even after this one. But so they took it out. Opening WrestleMania did great. They seemed to be doing well, and then all of a sudden, abruptly, Tom Zenk decides to leave, I guess, from reports that I've read online and in other places, that it was just a money thing. He didn't think he was being compensated fairly. He didn't have quite the passion maybe some of the other wrestlers did, but saw more of a work thing, I guess. But I guess, I mean, this was 1987, one of the toughest times on the road. They were on the road so much in that time with Hogan. I mean, 3 cities a night and all over the place, and probably a lot of personal appearances as well. And so if you're not thinking that you're getting paid enough for all the work you're doing, what you're putting your body through and stuff like that, and they were high flyers, they did the high risk moves, I guess I can understand. He just didn't have it, and he didn't want it. He left kind of abruptly, and you ended up with Martel going with Strikeforce, and turned out to be an okay thing for Martel, and I think Strikeforce kind of became what the Can-Am connection was going to be. And I don't know if that would have, if Tom ever regretted that decision or not. He went to Japan for a while, New Japan Wrestling, and that's, people always did well financially over there, so we didn't really hear about him as much, except for like the diehard fans at that time. But he's over there. Came back in 1989, AWA, and there was a vacant AWA title, so you had Larry Zbyszko winning the Battle Royal, but the last person he threw out at that Battle Royal was Tom Zenk. And also, although Zenk didn't win the title that night, he got a whole bunch of rematches for the title with Larry Zbyszko, could never take it, but I wouldn't say that's a bad AWA showing, but it seemed like a pretty quick AWA showing once again. And then he ended up in the NWA, which would soon become WCW, came in as the Z-Man. One of the most memorable things for me was he was on the Family Feud when it was the WCW against the Glow, and you all know, hey, check the channel. There's definitely Glow. If you like Glow Wrestling, we have definitely a bunch of that on this channel, and the Glow Girls against WCW. But he was a smart man. He didn't embarrass. Some of the wrestlers did embarrass themselves on those game shows. Tom Zenk did not. He seemed like he had a good head on his shoulders and did there. would end up teaming with Brian Pillman as a tag team. Also would win the television title from Arn Anderson at one point, and then kind of carry the television title into the WCW. So he was the first WCW television champion. He got hurt somewhere in there, and I think it was for a while. I want to say a torn bicep, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But hurt for a while, and then he was always, he did about, television champion. He was never really in the main event picture, but he had a small career in WCW. But then, like I said, he kind of just, after we don't see him at WrestleCon or at these other conventions and stuff like that. He just kind of did his own thing afterwards, and he just didn't. He had his fill of the wrestling world and wanted just to have his own life. My prayers go out to his parents, and I guess he has 2 brothers and a sister from the looks of it, and 8 nieces and nephews. I know what this is like for them, and this is real life too. Sometimes in the wrestling world we get so wrapped up in characters and stuff, but they lost a family member, and we all know what that's like, losing a family member. And so my prayers and condolences out to the family. I did get to see him wrestle a few times live at Can-Am Connection versus the Hart Foundation. I'm going to assume it was right after WrestleMania 3, maybe like May or June. They probably just made a run through somewhere in the Midwest where I was around and got to see them wrestle live. I didn't go to a lot of WCW shows in the early 90s, so I don't think I ever saw them there. I might have saw them in the AWA. I'm not remembering that, but because I went to the most AWA shows. But it's just we've lost a lot of these people. This one is someone that a lot of us grew up with, and like I said, WrestleMania 3, and just a great star. And my condolences to the family, and I'm sorry that at 59 we don't have any other news of what happened or anything else like that. But Tom Zenk is no longer with us, and another loss in the wrestling world. So don't really have much more to say on that.